All right, come closer for a moment, because what I'm about to say may save you years of pushing, forcing, affirming through clenched teeth, and wondering why nothing seems to move, no matter how positive you try to be. Have you ever noticed that the very thing you want most seems to slip further away the harder you press for it? You speak the right words, you repeat the commands, you visualize with great effort, and yet life just stares back at you like a cat being told to fetch. Nothing happens. Or worse, the opposite happens. Bills show up faster, delays multiply, people misunderstand you, and you sit there thinking, but I did everything right. Why isn't this working? Let me tell you something gently, with a smile. It isn't that your words have no power. It's that emotional pressure cancels commands. Yes, cancels them. Like writing a beautiful check and then tearing it up before it reaches the bank. Now, if you're feeling personally attacked already, relax. You are in excellent company. Most people live their entire lives applying pressure and calling it faith, calling it willpower, calling it discipline. And then they wonder why they're exhausted, why manifesting feels like hard labor, and why peace seems like a luxury item reserved for monks and retired cats. If you've ever felt frustrated because you're doing the inner work, but still feel stuck, if you've ever tried to command something into being while secretly panicking inside, if you've ever whispered, "Please work, please work, please work," right after declaring something boldly, then congratulations. You are human, and you are exactly who this message is for. The real challenge is not that you lack desire. It's not that you lack belief, and it's certainly not that you lack effort. The challenge is that emotional pressure is a form of resistance, wearing a very convincing costume. Pressure sounds like determination, but it feels like strain. And strain is never the language of power. Think of it this way. Have you ever tried to push a door that clearly says pull? You can push with passion, push with focus, push with sweat dripping down your face, and the door will not budge. Not because you are weak, but because you are applying force in the wrong direction. Emotional pressure is exactly that. It's pushing where allowing is required. You see, when you apply pressure, you are silently confessing that you believe something is missing, late, or difficult to obtain. And life, being very obedient, agrees with you immediately. Now don't be offended. Life is not mocking you. It is not punishing you. It is simply responding with remarkable accuracy. When you say, "I command abundance," but your stomach is tight, your jaw is clenched, and your thoughts are racing with, "What if it doesn't work?" The emotional tone speaks louder than the words. The universe, the subconscious, the invisible law, call it what you like, does not respond to vocabulary. It responds to state. And pressure is not a state of authority. It is a state of pleading disguised as command. This is why some people speak very few affirmations and see results effortlessly, while others repeat them like a full-time job and feel drained. One is relaxed. The other is strained. One is inwardly settled. The other is emotionally leaning forward, grabbing, chasing. Authority never chases. Authority expects. Let me make this wonderfully practical. Imagine a queen issuing a command. Does she shout? Does she explain herself 12 times? Does she pace the room saying, "I hope they listen. I hope this works"? Of course not. She speaks once, calmly, and moves on to tea. The command is effective because there is no emotional pressure attached to it. Pressure belongs to those who doubt their position. And here's the funny part. The harder you try to force a feeling of certainty, the more you activate the very doubt you're trying to escape. It's like trying to calm water by slapping it. You only create more ripples. Many people say, "I just need to believe harder." No, dear one. Belief does not require strain. If it does, it is not belief. It is effort pretending to be faith. Your power does not come from emotional intensity. It comes from emotional neutrality, paired with clarity. Now let's talk about why this matters so deeply. Emotional pressure keeps you in a constant loop of anticipation and disappointment. You're always waiting, watching, checking, measuring. Is it here yet? Did it move? Did I say it right? And in that loop, you never arrive. You only wait and waiting is a silent declaration that you believe fulfillment is elsewhere, later, or conditional. The law of life works when you are inwardly aligned with the outcome, not emotionally obsessed with it. Obsession repels. Calm expectancy attracts. This is why people often receive breakthroughs right after they give up, not in defeat, but in release. They stop pressing. They stop monitoring. They stop emotionally hovering over the seed they planted. And suddenly, something shifts. They think the miracle happened because they stopped caring. No, it happened because they stopped pressuring. Pressure is saying, I don't trust the process. Release is saying, it is handled. Now let me be very clear, because this is where people misunderstand and swing to the opposite extreme. Releasing pressure does not mean becoming passive, lazy, or indifferent. It means removing emotional strain while maintaining inner certainty. You still choose. You still declare. You still move when inspired. But you no longer push life like a stubborn piece of furniture. There is a rhythm to creation, and pressure is always offbeat. Here's a simple framework to help you recognize when pressure has crept in. Ask yourself 3 gentle questions. First, am I trying to feel something into existence? Second, am I monitoring the outcome excessively? Third, do I feel tense after declaring what I want? If the answer to any of these is yes, pressure is present. And here's the beautiful part. You don't need to fight it. You don't need to fix yourself. You simply need to soften. Softening is one of the most powerful spiritual actions there is. It sounds too easy for the ego, which prefers effort. But softness is not weakness. It is alignment. Try this instead of forceful affirmations. State what you desire once, calmly, as a matter of fact. Then shift your attention to something that feels ordinary and grounding. Make tea. Take a walk. Wash a dish. Let your nervous system settle. This tells the subconscious, there is no emergency here. And the moment there is no emergency, power returns. Emergency energy blocks manifestation faster than doubt ever could. You don't manifest what you beg for. You manifest what you assume. And assumption feels quiet. I often smile when people say, I'm trying so hard to let go. Even that is pressure wearing a polite outfit. Letting go is not an action. It is the absence of one. You don't let go by effort. You let go by understanding. Once you see that emotional pressure cancels commands, you naturally stop applying it, just like you stop pushing a door when you realize it opens the other way. Now, let me invite you to do something small, simple, and slightly rebellious today. Choose one thing you've been emotionally pressing about. Just one. It could be money, love, clarity, healing, timing, anything. For the next 24 hours, do not command it repeatedly. Do not visualize it intensely. Do not check the field. Simply assume it is in motion and redirect your emotional energy toward ease. If your mind tries to interfere, smile at it. Minds love drama. Say, thank you, but this is handled, and return to the present moment. This is not avoidance. This is mastery. And something curious will happen. Your body will relax. Your breath will deepen. Your thoughts will slow. And in that state, your commands regain their authority, because authority is felt, not forced. Now, before I pause, let me remind you of this truth, because it is the one people forget most often. You were never meant to pressure life into obedience. Life already responds to you. Your job is not to shout louder, but to speak from a place that knows it is heard. Take a breath with me before we go further, because what we're about to unfold is not information you pile onto your mind. It's something you sink into, like warm water, and once you feel it, you won't be able to unfeel it. You see, emotional pressure doesn't just cancel commands in the moment. Over time, it trains your entire inner world to operate from urgency instead of authority. And urgency is the fastest way to forget who's actually in charge. Most people wake up already tense. They don't call it tension, they call it motivation. But notice the feeling. It's a subtle clench in the chest, a mental to-do list that feels heavy instead of exciting, a sense that time is chasing them with a stick. That constant hum in the background saying, I need to fix this, change that, become more, do better, hurry up. And then they try to speak powerful words from that state. That's like trying to play a violin during an earthquake and wondering why the music sounds off. The state always speaks louder than the sentence. Let me make this very human and very real. Imagine a child tugging at an adult's sleeve every 5 seconds saying, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Now imagine the adult calmly driving, knowing the destination is certain. Who has the authority in that situation? The one who knows, not the one who begs. Emotional pressure is the inner, are we there yet? And here's where people get confused. They think pressure comes from caring too much. No. Pressure comes from mistrusting timing. When you trust timing, care becomes gentle. When you mistrust timing, care becomes control. And control is fear wearing a clipboard. You don't need to eliminate desire. Desire is divine. It's directional. It's how life calls you forward. But desire paired with pressure turns into anxiety. Desire paired with trust turns into expectancy. Same desire, different emotional fuel. Now let's talk about why emotional pressure is so sneaky. It often disguises itself as responsibility. People say things like, if I don't think about it constantly, nothing will happen. Or, if I relax, I'll fall behind. Or my favorite, if I stop pushing, I'll become lazy. That's adorable and completely untrue. Have you noticed that your best ideas come when you're not forcing them? In the shower, on a walk, right before sleep. Never when you're staring at the ceiling demanding brilliance. Why? Because pressure shuts down receptivity. It puts the mind in survival mode. And survival mode is excellent at reacting, but terrible at creating. When you're emotionally pressured, your nervous system is tight. When your nervous system is tight, intuition goes quiet. And intuition is the courier of inspired action. So people end up taking frantic action instead of inspired action. They move a lot, but nothing moves forward. They're busy, but not effective. They're exhausted, but not fulfilled. And then they wonder why manifestation feels inconsistent. Consistency doesn't come from effort. It comes from alignment. Now here's something I want you to hear very clearly, because it will free you if you let it. You do not need to emotionally convince life of anything. Life is not skeptical. It is responsive. You don't persuade the law. You position yourself within it. Emotional pressure is a sign you are trying to persuade instead of assume. Assumption is quiet confidence. It's the feeling of course. Pressure is loud insistence. It's the feeling of, please. And the universe does not respond to please. It responds to poise. Let's bring a little humor into this, because seriousness is often just fear in a suit. Think of how absurd it would be to order food at a restaurant by shouting at the waiter every 30 seconds, reminding them what you ordered, explaining why you deserve it, and checking the kitchen door every minute. At some point, they'd either ignore you or escort you out for emotional misconduct. Yet people do this energetically all day long. They place an order with life, and then hover over it with doubt, impatience, and emotional pressure. And then they say, why isn't it working? Because hovering is interference. Creation requires space. Pressure collapses space. This is why stillness is so powerful. Not because nothing happens there, but because everything lines up there. Now let's address something important, especially for those who are ambitious, driven, and used to achieving through effort. You may be thinking, if I stop pressuring, how do I make progress? Here's the paradox. Pressure feels like movement, but it's actually friction. Ease feels like stillness, but it's actually flow. Flow does not mean inactivity. Flow means the right action at the right time with the right energy. You've experienced this before. A conversation where the words came effortlessly, a decision that felt obvious, an opportunity that unfolded without struggle. In those moments, you weren't emotionally straining. You were present. Presence is the birthplace of power. Pressure pulls you into the future mentally. Presence anchors you in the now emotionally. And creation only happens now, not later. Not once I fix myself. Now. Many people delay their authority because they think they must first eliminate all fear, doubt, or tension. That's another trick of pressure. You don't wait for perfection to relax. You relax to access what's already working. Let me give you a simple, almost comically effective practice. The next time you catch yourself emotionally pushing, stop and ask, what am I afraid will happen if I relax? Sit with the answer. Often it's something like, I'll lose control, or I'll miss my chance, or nothing will happen. Then gently remind yourself, control has never been your job. Response has. Your job is to respond to inspiration, not to micromanage outcomes. Outcomes are assembled beyond your conscious awareness. Timing, connections, rearrangements, delays that are actually protections. You don't see the full picture. Pressure assumes you do. Humility is not weakness. It's intelligence. Now, let's talk about commands themselves, because people misunderstand what a true command feels like. A true command is not loud. It's settled. It doesn't repeat itself nervously. It doesn't look over its shoulder for approval. When you speak from that place, even your silence carries authority. And here's the beautiful secret. When emotional pressure drops, commands become unnecessary. Life responds to your state before you speak. This is why some people seem lucky. They're not lucky. They're relaxed in expectation. They assume support. They don't argue internally with the idea that things can work out. They don't need to dominate reality. They cooperate with it. Now let me gently dismantle one more misunderstanding, because it traps many sincere people. Emotional pressure is often justified as passion, but passion does not feel frantic. Passion feels alive, not desperate. Desperation says, I need this to happen, or I'm not okay. Authority says, I'm okay, therefore this unfolds. Your well-being is not the reward. It is the starting point. And no, this does not mean ignoring problems or pretending everything is fine. It means addressing life from steadiness rather than stress. Stress says, something is wrong. Steadiness says, something is unfolding. Very different messages. If you take nothing else from this, remember this one sentence and let it settle into your bones. Emotional pressure is not proof of commitment. It is proof of resistance. Commitment feels clear. Resistance feels tight. Now, I want to give you a small daily ritual that rewires this pattern gently, without force. At the beginning of your day, before affirmations, before plans, before goals, say this inwardly. Nothing needs to be forced today. Say it once. That's enough. And notice how your body responds. That response is your baseline. Return to it throughout the day. When you feel yourself pushing, come back to that sensation. Not the words, the feeling. This is how authority is built, through familiarity with calm. You don't become powerful by trying harder. You become powerful by becoming steadier. And let me say something that might surprise you. Life enjoys responding to you. It is not withholding out of cruelty. It responds when you stop treating it like an opponent and start relating to it like a partner. Pressure creates opposition. Ease creates cooperation. Now, as we come toward a close, I want you to imagine yourself, 6 months from now, looking back on this moment, not remembering the words exactly, but remembering the shift, the moment you stopped gripping so tightly, the moment you stopped exhausting yourself emotionally, the moment you realized you don't have to wrestle life to be heard. That version of you is calmer, clearer, more effective. Not because they did more, but because they trusted more. And trust is not blind optimism. It is confidence in responsiveness. So here's your gentle invitation. Today, choose one area where you will replace pressure with poise. Just one. Let that be your practice. Let it be imperfect. Let it be human. And if this message brought relief, clarity, or even a quiet, "Oh, that makes sense," let that be your signal. Stay connected, return, engage, share your experience. There is power in practicing together. Life responds best when you stop shouting and start standing still. And from that stillness, everything knows where to find you.